Parliament is open for debate on head number 16.
Madam Chair.
We are looking at activity 1.
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah. Seg 1. Would the Minister explain the increase in personal emoluments? Does this mean recruiting new staff or increments for the current staff? And if it's hiring, Madam Chair, are we hiring professionals from within Fiji or expatriates? And while on that, Madam Chair, let me just again express our concern that the budget does not carry the headcounts of each ministry. We all come from the private sector, and some of us who are civil servants. In any budget, Madam Speaker, we should have an indication of the headcount. I know it's been explained to us over the last few days, but please, we are custodians of the funds for the people of Fiji, and any shareholder will want to know how many headcounts are in any organization. And I hope that could be taken into consideration, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, the answer is very simple. If the opposition looked at Program 1, Activity 3, that no longer exists, and that's been brought up into Program 1, Activity 1. You just add that up, it comes up to that figure approximately.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Segment 7. Would the Minister justify the increase to $200,000 for the allocation of the regional meeting when this year...
Sorry, which activity are you referring to?
Seg 7, Madam Speaker.
There's no Seg 7. We're looking at activity 1, general...
Yeah, we're still on activity 1.
Yeah, there's no Seg 7.
Oh, program 3, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Oh, let's just begin from program 1. Let's look at program 1. We'll come to program 3
Oh,
later on.
sorry. Okay. That's all we have to say about program 1.
And thank you for that clarification. We're still on 16.1.1. If there is any further comments, Honourable Randondro.
Madam Chair, can the Minister inform the on Seg 16.1.15, the increase in allocation by 639.9 thousand?
What is the question?
Madam Chair, the Program 1, Activity 1 on Head 16.1.15, there's an increase in allocation by 639,000 from 195,000 in 2015 allocation.
Yes, that is noted.
The question is why?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, again, if we look at Program 1, Activity 3, which no longer exists, it had 660.9. You add that up, and you take it up to Seg 5, and you add that up. That's why you get the increase.
Have you answered your question, Honourable Ansari? Thank you. Any more comments on Activity 1?
Madam Chair, just clarification. Will this mean Activity 3 will no longer be in operation as from next year?
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, yes, it will be in operation, but it's in Program 1, Activity 1. It's been put under that one program.
Thank you. Any further comments? Honourable Multavu.
Madam Chair, in regards to Seg 3, travel and communication, the actual for 2014 was 99.7K. And what was used was 83.2. But now there's a big increase, 268,000. Why is there an increase in this? because the actual says was only 99,000. Why there is an increase? There's a big increase.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I'm again answering the question again. The movement is from Program 1, Activity 3. The actual you're talking about is 2014, it's not 2015. 2015 is not yet finished. The year is still on foot.
Thank you. Any further comments? Thank you. The Parliament will now vote on head number 16.
So, Madam Chair, I need to. My question was on Program 3.
Program 3, yes.
Seg 7. The allocation for the regional meeting this year is for 70,000. We are now showing 200,000. Okay, can that be explained, Madam Chair?
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Chair, that is, we are hosting a Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization conference that will be held next year. It was in the news publicized that we have got the rights to host that, and that funding will go towards the hosting of the CTO conference, in which we expect dozens of countries, not just from within the region, but in fact outside the region they'll be attending.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we feel that is too much, and I would like to move a motion pursuant to Standing Order 102 that the head Seg 7 be decreased to $50,000 in respect of this. Madam Speaker, we should have sponsors for this. The Fiji government should not be paying for this totally. I think we can ask for sponsors and reduce the budget to 50,000. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, if you look at the number of countries that will be attending, in fact there are dozens and dozens of countries. I recall that when we last hosted the CTO conference, the civil servants had then put in a budget of $1.1 million to host the last big CTO conference. And we actually hosted it for about $240,000 from memory. The reason why that was because we actually got sponsors. So in fact, this $200,000 is, in fact, caters for having sponsors. Of course, if we get sponsors, and one of the things that we do, which many governments did not do previously, in fact they did not do at all, we outsource many of this. So for example, at the last CTO conference, we used Rosie Tours and we used ATS Pacific to actually do all the transportation, the actual welcoming party. It creates jobs, as opposed to commandeering government vehicles from Suva and sending it across, where you have to pay for the drivers, their overtime, their meals, their hotel accommodation. When you outsource it, they take care of all of that. So outsourcing, it obviously creates jobs too. So that $200,000, Madam Speaker, would say is sufficient and should not be reduced at all.
Thank you. Honourable Ngavoka, do you retain your amendment as stated?
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, still on Seg 7, can the Minister explain the repetition of the allocation for the implementation analog to digital roadmap with the same amount of $2 million from this year's budget?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Member, for that question. Madam Chair, through you. This again is the switch from analog to digital. As you know, there's an allocation of $2 million. We expect approximately about $1.2 million thereabouts to be used this year. There's still the need to continue the switch. As you know that we had stated this earlier on last year about the set-top boxes that will be given to ordinary Fijians, particularly those who cannot afford it. And this is there to subsidize those costs. So it'll spill over into next year also.
Thank you, Honourable. Honourable Ratanago, you wanted to...
Madam Chair, can I suggest that understanding order 100 subsection 2 to move without notice that the head 16, Seg 7 be decreased to 1 million in respect to implementation analog to digital roadmap.
Thank you. While you're filling in the form, Honourable Van Bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is in relation to the conventions that we are signatories to. I fail to find in Sec 7 the national time frequency to be maintained on a national level. The rubidium frequency and the cesium frequency. I may request, or I put a motion, if we can, that Head 16, Sec 7, move a motion on Standing Order 100, Part 2, that Head 16, Sec 7, there be an increase of 1 million for the purchase of this national time frequency, because it is a very important parameters to be used by aeroplanes, marines, and our national frequency in the delivery of those services. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I can suggest to the opposition, I know they're reading from notes that's probably written for them, but if they can, no, because they have failed, Madam Chair, continuously, they simply stand up and say, the Honourable Member Vande said, I want to make an amendment to Head 16, Sec 7. Under Head 16, there are various programs, there are various activities, and then there's segments. You need to highlight, Honourable Chair, through you, you need to state what's the head, what's the program, what's the activity, and then what's the segment under that. Please get that right, because it's very confusing, because you're all talking about, oh, Head 16, Sec 7. Which program, which activity? You need to state that.
Chair, I'd just like to highlight again that we had requested the Honourable Minister for Finance for assistance while we were looking at the budget. And all this could have been saved, we could have saved time if the officials were allowed to come and brief us. We had requested that and it was denied. I mean, this is a very complicated exercise. Not everybody is a money kind of person. We need time for the benefit of our people. We need time to scrutinize the budget. And that's why we need the expertise.
Order. Order.
Madam Chair, that workshop was not even enough, because the officials came in to brief us, but the Honourable Minister came in and intervened, and he took the session, and it was in a rush.
Thank you.
And apart from that, we had requested for assistance, but he didn't allow it.
Thank you. Your point is taken.
Madam Chair, that workshop was open to all members of the opposition. It is their problem if they chose not to attend. Honourable Randondro came in, nobody took over the session. They were given time. Please, you are smirking on your face because you know I'm telling the truth. Because Honourable Chair, there was no restriction. You did not attend, don't talk. Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Order, please. Let's have order.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The point is that everybody was allowed to attend. No. There's no point of order. It's a committee of supply. Sit down. Sit down.
Please, we'll finish. Let the Minister finish. I'll call you up.
Honourable Nawaikula, Honourable Chair, would have done well if he were here yesterday. When I also mentioned about the black sheep from Marist. Honourable Chair,
Yes.
Honourable Chair, the point is that that workshop was open to all members of this House. Only a handful of them chose to attend. There was no time restriction placed on any of those sessions. Nobody said you go home now or leave now. We had said you can ask as many questions as you like. We took them specifically and explained what is a head, what is a program, what is an activity. And it is very rich, coming from a former civil servant who was the director of women, saying it's a very complicated document. You, Honourable Chair, it's very simple. All we are saying, please, it's clearly stated, it's in the English language. Head 16, Program 3, Activity 1, SEG whatever. That's all we're asking.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the Honourable Attorney General is always used to giving lectures. I saw the presentations that some of his presenters made at the workshop was sketchy and not worth.
Excuse me, which activity are you referring to?
I'm talking about the workshop that you were talking. But let me talk about talk about this program. Program 4, 641, Sec 7 and Sec 9.
Please, we're still on 1631.
We finished it.
Honorable Nawaikula stood up. Did you have something to say?
You still have
Under that one, please.
Okay.
Could the Attorney General be asked anyone? Because we need to do this. We don't want to talk about other things. We don't want people to come here and lecture. Could we limit ourselves to the things that we're supposed to do?
Yes.
Say, activity, and then move on.
I think that's exactly what John.
Whatever. We don't want to be here until midnight.
Order. Order. I think it's very clear the way that I'm doing it. I'm actually saying Program 3, Activity 1, and when you speak on the 6 under Activity 1. Very clear. Please keep it at that and it will be better organized. I call on Honorable Van Dey, who stood up.
Madam Chair, I was referring to Head 16, Program 3, Activity 1, Seg 7.
Yes.
That's why I was coming into, because I didn't find any national time frequency to be maintained nationally. That's why I add on to that.
Your recommendation for amendment is noted. We will debate on that before we vote.
Thank you.
Dr. Biman Prasad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Attorney General makes a big deal of head. We already know we are on head 16. Program 4, 1641, Seg 7, consultancy payments. I see $2 million allocated there, not under acquisition. Can I ask the Minister, what is this consultancy payment for?
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Honourable Chair, this has been elucidated in this House previously, and in fact the Honourable Bhiman Prasad would know as Chair of the Public Accounts Committee what the consultancy payment is for. It's for the development of software and also for the management of government ITC department.
Thank you. Honorable Bhiman Prasad, are you still talking on the same?
Yeah, on the same program 4641, Seg 9. Digitization, BDM, Companies and Titles Office. Can the Minister inform the House the progress on that and whether that will be completed in 2016?
Honorable Minister.
Honourable Chair, I'm happy to inform the House. In fact, the program has already started. We have at the moment 2 shifts of people who are working up till midnight every night. We hope to increase that to a 24-hour shift. Essentially what this involves is all the titles that have been issued in Fiji right since the colonial times. None of it has been digitized. In fact, some of the titles are falling apart. Right up till only about 4 or 5 years ago, we were in fact, all the governments had breached the law, and the law had stated that all the titles in Fiji, in the titles office, must be kept in a fireproof environment. And in fact, it was on level 2. The floor was sinking because of the weight. At the moment now, as you know, it's in Civic Towers on the ground floor. So we are now actually capturing, and a lot of the documents actually are falling apart. Honorable Dulu Kaivarata would know this from the Lands Department, that many titles are falling apart, in fact, because some of them, in fact, have been moth-eaten. So we are now trying to capture all of that. The digitization is taking place. So we have all of that on digital records. And then eventually the idea is, for example, if Honorable Nawaikula, as one of his clients, lodges a caveat on a property, then he can do that online and very quickly and efficiently. Naka. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now give the floor to the Honorable Kiraki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Activity Head 16, Program 3, Activity 1, and Seg 6. 16, 3, 1, 1, 6.
Thank you. You're allowed to go back to
Yes.
3-1. Please continue.
We're still on 6, Madam Chair. What is the basis of the grant to Telecommunications Authority of Fiji to the amount of $948,908, whilst the generating revenue itself? What is the basis of allocating this grant?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Madam Chair, the Telecommunications Authority of Fiji does collect some revenue from the various telecom license holders. I do not have the figures on me, on hand at the moment. It does carry out, for example, it carries out very important work. As you may know, some of you who use mobile phones, there are certain parts of Suva that you do drive along now, you'll find that the phone actually call drops off. The reason why it does that is that because a lot of people are bringing in hands-free mobile sets for their homes, and the frequency, a lot of it is American frequency that interferes with our frequencies. And they carry out that type of work where they're able to find those equipment. In fact, they need to be licensed. They need to have the frequency that's approved before it lands into Fiji. They carry out all that type of work as far as the telecommunications aspect in Fiji is concerned. They also look at, for example, the collation of the Universal Service Access Fund that telecommunication companies need to pay. As you know, that we put in place a law where a certain percentage goes towards that. And in next year, you'll see from that particular fund, and as we've already advertised it in the papers, a lot of the brown spots in Fiji or blackout spots in Fiji where you don't actually have reception, will be able to fund that through the Universal Service Access Fund to put more telecom towers to get more telecommunication services through that area.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honorable Nowaikula.
Let's just go back to 16.
Sorry, Honorable Nowaikula. Honorable Kilraki, are you still talking on the same? Sorry, Honorable Nowaikula, I'll just let him finish.
I need to put a motion in regards to the answer.
Thank you. I will give you the form, and then you will speak on the motion when it comes to the debate on that motion.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Pursuant to Standing Orders 102, I move without notice that Head 1636 be decreased by $448,908. Grant to Telecommunications Authority of Fiji to be reduced by $448,908.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You will speak on it later. Honorable Nowaikula.
I just go back to Head 16, Program 4, Activity 1, 9, that the Honorable Minister has explained before on digitization in the Titles Office. Can you assure this House that this work will be completed this year, unlike others which were budgeted and were not done years and years? So will this be completed?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, the money that's been set in the estimates which we are debating is sufficient for this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was asking whether it will be completed. No.
Budget.
So it's no.
Budget.
It's budget. Yeah.
Madam Chair, this is about the budget, it's about estimates.
You want
Should
to
have been
increase,
here.
decrease, or remain?
I just want an assurance from you. Isn't that part of it? Can you tell us that
Ask
it will be
me
done?
question time in February. Make sure you attend Parliament then.
Thank you, Honorable Asir Rondon.
1637 on implementation analog to digital roadmap, an amount of 2 million. Can the Minister inform this House on the basis of these 2 million and whether there will be some contributions from the private sectors in addition to these 2 million?
Madam Chair, I've already answered this question. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further comments, we will...
Chair, just the last one. At 16, Program 4, Activity 1, Sec 10 on a national switch, is allocated 300,000. Sec 10, eh? Sec 10? 1641, national switch, eh?
Yes.
National switch, Mike? Whether this is an ongoing project and whether this is going to be completed this year or we're still in developing the system for national switch.
Do you want to increase, decrease, or remain? Budget, the allocation that has
I'm
been
matching
made.
the preliminary request first, Madam. If there is still work to be done, then I'll propose an amendment for increase or decrease in regards to the completion.
So the question is...
Just to, what are the details? What are the details for this allocation? Just to justify. I'm coming to why. Just allow the Honourable Minister to answer.
The honors is on you,
Honourable Chair, I will answer the question because I'd like to entertain Honorable Bulitabu. Honorable Chair, if the Honorable Nawai and his companions read Standing Orders 100, the Honorable Chair has actually given you a lot of latitude. Because if you were to stick to the Standing Orders, we don't have this kind of exchanges and things that you're asking. So we will oblige you when we feel like it. Honorable Chair, the Honorable Bulitabu is absolutely correct. This project, in fact, as we've spoken about it now for a couple of years, we've had now consultations with some of the banks. As you know, the national switch, the idea is at the moment, if I can explain again as I've answered to this House previously, at the moment if you're an ANZ card holder, use your FPOS card, you can go to any bank, or most banks, not all banks, to use that ATM card, even though ANZ card holder, you can go to Westpac. The reason why you're able to do that is because ANZ and Westpac have a bilateral agreement. And they charge you, say we'll charge you $1.50 for this. They have their own bilateral agreements. For years, ANZ, Westpac, BSP now, which is Colonial, got together and did not allow other banks to come into that. So for example, Baroda was always left out. That's why Baroda didn't have ATM machines. Bread Bank at the moment is left out because none of these big guys want to have a bilateral agreement with them. So they're setting up their own ATM machines. To make electronic banking a lot more efficient and accessibility, we should have only one switch, centralized. So by law, all the banks should connect their ATM machines. It could include even TLTB, it could include FSC, whoever it is that disperses a lot of funds, to connect to the national switch. And then for a very small fee, just a couple of cents, we can get everybody to switch with each other. And then no small bank is left out. Because if you have banks left out, and in this day and age, you need access to electronic banking, it increases the capital expenditure. So the idea is to have services, more focus on services and bank services. That's the idea of switch. We've had meetings. We at the moment are developing a law, the draft law. It should again be tabled in February in this Honourable House for that to be then put to the committee stage, and then we can have this implemented.
Madam Chair, in addition to that question, whether our relatives from overseas can be connected to those national switch in their banking system also. Thank you.
Should I oblige?
Thank you. Would you like to oblige? Because really, the honor is on the Honourable Minister to answer that question.
I feel compelled to answer, Honourable Member. It depends on the existing banks and the relationships they have. The switch is focused on Fiji. We don't have the jurisdiction to impose the national switch on the nationality of another country. So, please hear me out. We have the switch here. We have ANZ, Westpac, everybody else sitting around it. If ANZ has a relationship with somebody on their own basis, on a bilateral basis, as you go and use the Maestro cards, you know the Maestro cards where you can now take your ATM card, from your bank here, and you can put it in that machine. They'll charge you a percentage if you're in Geneva or wherever you may visit. They take a fee from that, but that is because of the relationship between ANZ or Westpac, whoever it is, with that particular electronic company. So the national switch does not have a relationship with an international company. It has a relationship with the bank that's domiciled in Fiji. And if that bank that's domiciled in Fiji has a relationship with somebody else outside that, that's between them, and it may be able to access to the switch. I do not know. Not necessarily. You can't legislate banks or companies outside Fiji. Yeah. No.
Thank you. I think it's time that we...
Madam Chair, on Program 4, Activity 1, Seg 8, on disaster recovery site, $50,000. You know, given the number of disasters that we have here, is this amount enough? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Dulaki Varata. It's in fact an ongoing project. And as you know, that most ITC services must have a DRP, disaster recovery program. So in the event, for example, if the building in which the mainframe is housed catches fire, or there's a tsunami, whatever it is, it must have a site that can act as a backup, like all the banks doing that. In fact, what's actually happening, a number of the banks are talking to government now, government ITC department, to use us as the backup, where they can store all their frames. So it's actually going to be, that's one of the things that these consultants are doing. We are getting ISO certification for the ITC department, which will mean that companies, private companies, can even use the infrastructure that we have, and indeed we can in the future generate income. But that's what the DRP is for.